chose their king, their power was met, but we don't answer to Ottawa yet. No crown gave us what we've earned, just dirt and fire and lessons learned. Now the ground it shakes, the steel it groans, and Alberta walks alone. We ride sovereign steel through fire.
The most recent one is the Courage to Listen, where we create a framework for a sovereign Alberta within United Canada. We showed the entire spectrum of possibilities, and now I find myself running as a candidate for president of the United Conservative Party of Alberta.
Incredible. Let me ask you a question about that. And it may seem like a bit of a simple question, but I think it's an important one. Most people kind of have a pretty good idea of what MLAs do, and what Danielle Smith does is effectively the leader. But what does the president of a political party actually do?
Well, I think first and foremost, the president is like the quarterback. I mean, my key asset, of course, is not just the membership, but the board of directors. Through that board of directors, we basically operate for the party. We try to get out as much well-intended policy and, of course, consideration for MLAs as we can. And we have a great staff in the office. So there's people there that are helping quarterback the little pieces that we give them to fulfill. But overall, as a representative of the board, I try to make sure that everything runs smoothly, particularly given the dynamics of politics. I mean, things change a lot. And as the president of the party, we need to be sensitive to the members, but at the same time, keep our hand on the rudder, because it's going to be some very turbulent times here in Alberta.
Now, I just have to ask, why do you think you're the man to sort of to captain the ship moving forward in that sense? Why should people maybe look to you as opposed to perhaps maybe some establishment candidates, some of the other folks that are particularly one individual? Why are you the guy to take this ship moving forward?
Well, I really think the board has built, the current board's built a really good foundation for where we need to go. And like with every organization, you need people to take you to the next step. And, people often say, well, Darrell, you're a person of action. And it's true. I like to give action or take action to give people hope, as opposed to hoping to take action.
Right.
And right now, we've built a broad consensus within the party. People are well organized in certain areas. But I think that I will bring a real focus to fulfilling and getting the constituency associations on stream and understand the need and responsibility that they have. I mean, our leader, Danielle Smith, she's a fantastic leader. She knows her information. She understands the politics of the day. She can articulate every point so eloquently so people can understand it. But you realize that to win this political battle that we're going to be in, we need to have the best, most active CAs. They need to be operating 365 days a year. They need to be engaging with their communities, and they need to be identifying voters now. So I'm not the guy that people can give excuses to, because as a small business owner, we need to get the job done now. And now's the time. We can't waste any more time. I'm the guy that's going to light the fire and get things moving.
No, you're not the only guest we have tonight. Obviously, we've got some incredible grassroots candidates who are going to be joining us throughout the evening. But before that, we actually have a surprise guest joining us. And I don't know if you know about this, but this is Mitch Sylvester from the Alberta Prosperity Project. So he's going to be joining us in just a minute here, I believe. There we go. We have Mitch Sylvester with us now. Thanks so much for joining us. Obviously, Alberta Prosperity Project doing a great amount of work sort of advocating for Alberta's sovereignty, Alberta's interests. Mitch, thank you so much for joining us. How are you doing?
Well, great. Thanks for having me. You know what? I'm also the CA president for Bonneville Coal Lake
Mitch might
St.
be
Paul.
muted. We can't hear.
You're muted. Can you hear me now?
Mitch, we can hear you fine.
To get his audio sorted here.
We can hear you fine. Well,
Can you hear me fine?
Perfect, grassroots, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh yeah.
While we're getting that sorted,
all right, Mitch. They've been told.
Okay.
Please go ahead.
All right. You guys hear me now?
Yeah, sorry, Mitch. Go ahead with your message.
Okay, great. So I'm also the CA chair for Bonneville Coal Lake St. Paul, as well as the APP CEO. And funny thing that my board, as well as the APP, see this list of candidates as an absolute great group of candidates that we would support 100%, because we're going to define a little bit of who we are in Bonneville Coal Lake St. Paul and how that lines up with the APP. We're seeing that not everybody sees the world as we do. Our views as grassroots people are that our rights and freedoms are being infringed and actually under attack by the Liberal government. So at this particular time, we have to have people that represent our views on the board so that our views can, of course, be represented. Because Jason Kenney started this little thing years ago. When he got elected, he busted in 4 groups of people to take over the board. So that's not our aim. Our aim isn't to take over the board. However, that would be nice. What we're looking for is to have representation on the board and follow the democratic process that they actually started, the Progressives actually started 3 or 4 years ago by bringing a whole bunch of people to the AGM. Now, this is my 4th AGM. And they continue to get bigger, with the exception of this one is 35% smaller than last year's, but still a very, very large group. So I just want to make everybody understand that as far as our perspective is concerned, we feel that we're being relentlessly attacked by Liberal government and policies. They're unapologetically attacking industry while increasing debt. So we don't understand how that's sustainable. And where we're at right now with the APP is that we just left court, and we have an absolute wonderful chance to get a referendum question on the floor to put it in front of the people of Alberta so that they can have a vote on actually the future. And I believe this vote is going to be key. It's going to probably influence the future of Alberta for 50 to 100 years coming in the future. And I'm very concerned and hopeful that we can have the right people on the board that would allow that vote to go forward. So I'm just hoping that people that were watching this will listen to these candidates and absolutely give them a chance to share their view, and that maybe we can either stop the pace of this Liberal assault on Alberta, or absolutely get out of the problem, get out of the country altogether.
Well, Mitch, as you know, I have been very active in advocating for the discussion on sovereignty and independence. I mean, in fact, Calgary Lougheed, we created an entire event to which you participated in that said, hey, how can we actually create a framework for a sovereign Alberta within United Canada? And we were very fortunate that we had some great input. The APP's Value of Freedom had just come out the day before the event. And of course, Ben Trudeau created a framework of the 28 different areas that the Alberta government could take control of right now, and then add that to the obvious next step, which would be the value of freedom. So I certainly see that having the discussion is incredibly valuable. And seeing you there, we know there's going to be a referendum question. I think everyone who suggests that there won't be, or there shouldn't be, or there might be, there will be a question. So having the discussion, I think, is a very unifying experience for a party, because the reason that people feel so disgruntled is that they're not being heard. And so much of listening isn't just active listening, but it's being respectful of what people are saying.
And Mitch, if you don't mind, if I go ahead.
No, and we're thinking that we're having a discussion every night all over the province, and we feel that once people understand what we're talking about, then this becomes a much easier decision. But as Darrell says, if we don't have the conversation, and you can't have the conversation, or people are blocking the conversation, which we're getting on a nightly basis in halls all across the province, then it makes it a little bit more difficult to get the information to the people that need to hear it.
And do you feel like someone like Darrell, being in that position, the president of the party, would make those folks who maybe feel a little bit marginalized, like their voices aren't being heard? Do you think he's the type of person who can bring them back into the fold?
Well, historically, he's been doing that with the injection of truth and the courage to listen and everything else that's happened. So I have no reason to believe that he wouldn't continue doing that.
Incredible. Any other questions or thoughts there?
Well, I just appreciate the work that Mitch does. I mean, Mitch has 65, 70 town halls in the last year on sovereignty. How many are we at?
We're getting close to 80.
Wow. You know, I've had the fortune of visiting many of these town halls. I just, I was down at Okotoks just listening to what was being said there, and they had 800 people.
Mm-hmm.
In Calgary on Sunday, there was 250 people talking, and the presentation was very well attended,
mm-hmm.
and the people are really engaging in the topic. So I think the more people that are talking, and people will say to me, well, Darrell, we're a political party, we should stay out of the discussion. We're in the discussion. We are the discussion. Our members are showing up at Mitch's town halls.
Mm-hmm.
So to not have that discussion and to pretend, put our head in the sand and think, hey, well, you can have the discussion over here in the coffee shop, or you can have the discussion over here with Mitch, or you can have it with APP. We should be having it everywhere. And, the idea that we said that Alberta first was, one of the planks that I put up there. We need to put Alberta first. Every Albertan should put it first. Mitch's point is not a question of political will one way or the other. This is an apolitical situation to which a political party should have some opportunity to talk to people, because if we have the discussion now, we're going to educate our members. It's going to avoid a travesty later when there is a vote. And what happens if they vote yes, or what happens if they vote no? Then where does that leave the party in between? But if our members are well informed, then they themselves will be the ones actually making the literal vote.
Yeah.
And I think the party at that point will take the vote of the people, because we are a party of the people. We listen, we're thinkers, we're very considerate in how we go about doing it. But at some point in time, we're going to have to go from listening
mm-hmm.
and talking to action. And that's what makes it a little different with me, is I'm more of an action guy. If they said, what kind of dog are you? I'd say I'm a German Shepherd. I got bite. I can track things. I follow. I have a certain intelligence about what's going on. But at the end of the day, I'm going to get it done.
Yeah.
And I think people need to know that this is a mission critical discussion. It's the most popular topic in the entire province. I mean, even Thomas the Skazek came up with 450,000 people who wrote, his petition. I mean, they collected on chip bags, napkins, paper. I mean, they didn't have to validate any signatures. I mean, it's a question that sounds like a nothing burger, but hey, you know what? If that's what we have to work with, people can work with that. So people have to know where we're at. They have to know the value of being Alberta. They have to stand up for Alberta. And far too often, I mean, we're going to have an MOU tomorrow on a pipeline.
Mm.
Well, I think MOUs are a little bit like New Year's resolutions. We really want to keep them. We really want to do them. But how many of those actually happen in a year?
Especially when you look at the nitty gritty in that MOU, that's a whole other conversation.
Oh yeah, we can have that later.
The one thing I wanted to touch on though here that is absolutely critical, the United Conservative Party has been talking about for as long as I can remember this idea of grassroots.
Correct.
Now, grassroots is not the party down saying you're allowed to talk about this, you're not allowed to talk about this. It's having events. It's doing town halls like the APP does. It's having town halls like you've been having. So if you could maybe just touch on what a Darrell Komick presidency will look like as far as actual grassroots. And obviously, Mitch, you can speak to this as well, because you're the work of APP is pretty prototypical of what grassroots politics is all about.
Well, I'll start with that, Darrell, and then you can finish. Yeah. You can get the last word on that. I think grassroots is basically, as far as Bonneville is concerned, is just to bring it into a smaller area, is that the politicians have to listen to the people that put them there. I think that basically defines it as far as we're concerned, because every region has its own issues. And, we're oil country, oil and agriculture here. So we have a lot of different issues than what happens, say, in urban Alberta. So being grassroots politically means that, you have certain sets of values that are probably unique to your area, and a lot of them are the same all over Alberta. So that's who we are. We're people that live the lives that we want to live, where we want to live it, and do the things that we want to do, uncensored and with freedom of will and freedom of choice. And that's exactly the way we want to continue to live. So that's basically defines the grassroots as far as I'm personally concerned.
Yeah, I really have to agree with much of that. And I understand people talk about this urban-rural divide issue. Urban's different than rural, rural's different than urban. I mean, I work with 275 local producers every day, and I sell products in my grocery store and at our farmers market to urban audience. And I can say that really the only divide that I see there is a division of trust. And rural people have more self-reliance on each other. Therefore, they're more trusting with each other because you can hold them accountable. It's a little tougher in the city. So when it comes to grassroots, this issue of grassroots means the dialogue that people are willing to have. And, democracy is messy. It's not clean. And so I think for me, people having more town halls on topics, have the town hall, have the topic. Get people engaged in your community, however you want to get them engaged. But having the discussion shows that we're a party that will think, will listen, and then at some point we're going to take action a little quicker than people think.
Mitch, final word to you, just for folks who are considering who they're going to be voting for as the president of this party moving forward. What thoughts do you have for those folks out there?
Well, I would recommend all the people on this call, all the people that are going to present here tonight. That's actually the people that we actually put on a slate in two places, actually on my CA, as far as my CA board is concerned, and that's what we're sharing with the Alberta Prosperity Project as well. And I made that decision. I actually didn't have to make that decision. That decision was made for me by my board and by everybody on the Alberta Prosperity Project as well.
Incredible. Well, Mitch,
or most people on the Prosperity. I'll rephrase that. Most people on the Alberta Prosperity Project. Some of them don't agree with our choices, and of course that's allowed. That's entirely up to them. They can. This is a democracy.
Politics is messy. Yeah. Absolutely. Well, Mitch, thank you so much for your time. We really do appreciate it. Thanks for stopping in. You touched on something there prior. You talked about the sort of city-rural divide, and the city is going to be, the major cities, particularly Calgary, Edmonton, are going to be major battlegrounds moving forward. So they're going to need strong leadership. So up next, we're going to be joined by Irma Roberts, who's working as, or hoping to be the candidate for the Calgary directorship.
Yeah, Irma's currently the director here in Calgary, and she's running for re-election. So there's Irma. Hi, Irma.
Absolutely. Hi, Irma. Hey, thanks for joining us. So there are some new faces coming in. There are some faces who are already there, who've been doing that important work representing the people in Calgary. Calgary is clearly a battleground, though. It's one of those places where the UCP wants to gain ground back. So what do you think needs to happen, and what will happen if you're reelected as Calgary director to ensure that the UCP is once again strong in Calgary?
Well, you know what? I want to continue to do what I have been doing in the past 2 years. So that is, a lot of people say they want to support CAs and they want to do this or they don't want to do that, and they just speak in general. But what we have done, and I don't take credit for this because all of the board have been doing this together, is to have like specific things for CAs, like training days, like the ones that was in Nisku, the ones that was in Cochrane, and also, to do more events. For a lot of the events we have to, there's fundraisers, but I want to do more events where people can just show up and connect. For instance, I have always said that we need to make sure that we win back middle-class women. So middle-class women is a huge demographic that we cannot afford to lose. So one of the first things I want to do in 2026 is to have an event for conservative women. I'm an immigration lawyer, so I work with immigrants every day of my life. And I also know that the city have changed a lot. So I want to expand on what we have done in the past year. We had a wonderful event with, I can't remember, it was more than 1,200 people. It was in the Northeast, a music festival put on by Red FM. And we had all of these people coming to the UCP tent, and we connected with them. I had a very short notice to put this event together, but it was a huge success and something that I feel very great about. So that's what we need to do, is to build on the training that was already available. And one of the things that I have felt very strongly about is that, apart from that, the party needs to get a campaign manager for 2026 in place as soon as possible. We need to also, and I know they're working on that, is to get an election readiness director specifically working with Calgary, because that person will also give a lot of information to the CAs, and that person will also give direction of where to go. So that's some of what I'm planning for the next year, and just build on what I've already done.
And we can't forget, Irma, you were the force behind the 7 CAs in South Calgary who had that incredibly successful pancake breakfast. I mean the premier show that we had like 20 or 30 MLAs, MPs are showing. I mean, if you were the who's who in the conservative movement, you were at the South Calgary UCP pancake breakfast. It was like, it's the kickoff. It's become an annual tradition. It's a really big event. So well done, Irma.
Well, thank you. That was a very fun event, and I know you may remember this as well, but when we started talking to the different CAs, we were not sure we were going to get all of them there. But anybody who's been there is participating, and that became a yearly event. So we can do the same in other parts of the city as well, because when we get CAs to host events together, they save a lot of money and you reach out to a lot of people.
And more hands is makes for lighter work.
Exactly. Well, and we talked earlier about grassroots. The other sort of part of that is unifying. And while a Stampede breakfast or an event like that may just seem like an event, it is one of the times of the year where people in Calgary really do come together, really do unify under a banner. So thanks for the incredible work you're doing. For folks out there who are considering which vote they're going to make with this upcoming weekend, what's your sort of final message to folks out there who are considering who they're going to be casting their votes for?
Well, I think people have seen my performance on the board. They've seen how I have voted on this board. They know that I support grassroots people. What I'm asking them is like, gee, give me another chance, so that I can just build forward. The first year, you kind of find your legs. And then you start doing these events. And that's what I'm asking for people. And to remember that where I'm coming from, it's like I have always been involved with the UCP. I was on the first board of Calgary Haze when the two parties came together. So to me, it's like, I think it's very important where you come from. It's like a lot of people will say, well, I have had some board experience and I have done this and that. I've had lots of board experience on the Canadian Bar Association. I have had it with anti-poverty organizations. But the most valuable experience I had was to be a CA president, because, you start working with CAs. So to me, that is something that I value a lot, is that experience that I have got. I also think we're different than the federal conservatives. I had one candidate saying that we have to make sure that we run strong candidates. I think that's where the UCP is very, very different from the federal conservatives. We elect our people. We don't just nominate them from the top. That is what Alberta is all about. I think people who've only been involved in federal politics don't always get it, that the UCP is very different. It's a grassroots party, and I will never agree with, the party just appointing candidates. That's against everything we believe in.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Irma. I really appreciate you joining us here. We've got a long list of candidates to get through, so we'll be hopping on to our next guest. But thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it. Up next, someone who's up for the central directorship, right? Central director, Al Beil. What do you know about this individual as we're getting them up?
Well, Al Beil is probably the statesman of the board. Al's got a tremendous depth of experience being a conservative, and Al is the kind of guy that he doesn't speak a lot, but when Al speaks, they're just incredibly well thought out arguments, and it's the sort of guidance that every board should want to have, is that steady hand with the experience, but also the history. And being as historical as Al is, it's a real treat to see him running again for re-election.
Well, when Al speaks, folks should listen. And on that note, we're now joined by Al. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, thank you.
Incredible. I guess first off, just what do you make of this young man before me who's running for the presidency of the United Conservative Party?
Well, I think Darrell's a fresh breath there in this area, and I really enjoy working with him in the last couple of weeks, so I got to know him a little bit better. And I really appreciate what he's done for the people here in Alberta through the courage to listen and the injection of truth. I think that's something that's really dear to me and many of our people in the UCP party, and it gives a voice to the things that our typical government was basically was afraid to touch, and I think and on the minds of so many people. So I really appreciate what Darrell's done through those two initiatives.
Oh, thanks, Al.
What in your mind are the key issues for the central region there? Obviously, when we talk about Calgary and Edmonton, they're key battlegrounds. But what are the sort of issues that folks are bringing to you that you think the party needs to focus on in the central region?
Well, in central Alberta is basically agriculture and oil and gas. And Ottawa has basically of the two industries we have in Alberta, they targeted both the oil and gas industry and the agriculture industry in a serious way. And we're, people are getting frustrated and they want to have some way that we as, Alberta people can push back or get some traction in getting our province back, back on track and push back to Ottawa and get our, basically our oil and gas industry working properly, and same with our agriculture industry. And it's sad to see the way, the fact that, a Canadian government will basically out to destroy these two industries. So at least that's what the feeling that we get here in central Alberta.
Well, Al, it's funny that we should have a federal government that goes after the moneymakers. It just wonders, you wonder what they're really up to and why they would go about doing that. Al, when you're on the board, maybe you could just give people an example of positions that you've taken to represent the grassroots so that those people in central Alberta understand the complexity of your job of being a central director.
Well, the first thing we have to do is make sure our CAs are operating properly, and that that all the members of all of our members actually have an opportunity to get involved in each CA, and that their voice is heard. The other thing at the provincial level, one of the things we're trying to do is provide training modules for all the CAs, like the presidents, the CFOs, secretaries, and VP of communications and VP of fundraising, so that we can be ready for the next election. And then there's some times where we as board members have to make some tough choices. So we were under a lot of pressure not to promote through our party platform, the injection of truth and also the courage to listen. But we as board members, we stood up for because it's a member initiative driven projects, and we stood up for that. And same with the Alberta, the Bill of Rights that came to our AGM last year, and that was another member initiative driven project. And we as board members, we had to stand up and stand our ground and make sure that got presented to the people, to our members, and we feel that was critical, and that's why we want to have a board of freedom-minded people, because if it had been under Jason Kenney's rule, those three things would have never come to the table.
Well, Alan, one of the things I noticed about that is that as long as we have our members speaking within the party policies, and we have a lot of good party policies, these are well written. I mean, I think this year we figured out over 10,000 volunteer hours have gone into thinking through over 800 party policies, and it's been whittled down to 35 to vote at the AGM. But anytime that we have members who want to speak to and educate, I mean, that is the key part. I mean, those educating our members about party policy is actually ahead of electing MLAs as far as our priorities go in non-election years. So people have to realize that there's great opportunity all year long in between elections to be engaged. Thanks, Al.
Thanks so much, Al. Really appreciate it.
Okay, thank you.
Up next, we've got a brave individual, Rick Mallet. This is an individual. Edmonton is the battleground. It's a place the UCP needs to gain some ground back. Clearly, I've had some conversations with some MLAs who've done door knocking. They're hearing that people are maybe starting to want some economic prosperity and not just some empty promises. So it's a place that there's going to be a lot of cross-examination for the director. So we have Rick Mallet, who is hoping to be the Edmonton director after the AGM, joining us now. Rick, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing great. Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity. Appreciate it.
Just plain and simple, I'll ask you, how are you going to help the UCP gain ground in Edmonton if you are successful in being elected?
It's a great question. The reality that we all know is that there are no seats in Edmonton. It was a blowout the last time, and it can be a real struggle to try and get MLAs elected here. I think the way I would approach this is to try and connect initially with all the CAs and get everybody engaged, get everybody energized. I think there's a little bit of a sense with some of the CAs that maybe they haven't been heard, or they've got some issues that they'd like to get addressed. They're not quite sure how to address them. I'm hearing a little bit of that. So I'd like to engage with all the CAs right away. You go visit them, they get to know me, I get to know them. What are their top 5 issues that need to get fixed, and how can we, as a board, support them? I think that so much of what we want to do is not tell them what they should do necessarily, but what we can do for them, and how can we empower them and energize them and make sure that they feel when it's time for boots on the ground and getting memberships and everything that comes with actually winning an election, that they feel that they can do it, in each of the CAs. I think we also need to focus in on probably there's 6 or 7 that are winnable, both south side, north side, Edmonton, west and east. There are some ridings that are winnable, and we're probably not going to win them all, just to be realistic, but I think if we can focus in on those ridings where we've got a great shot at winning, I think that's going to be helpful too.
Rick, it's really encouraging. The AGM is up there in Edmonton on Saturday, and I see that there's over 800 people from Edmonton, members from Edmonton, that are going to participate in the AGM. That's very encouraging, because it tells us that we have a volunteer base there in Edmonton that really could get energized, and working together could really deliver a breakthrough, and we could plant some flags in Edmonton this time around.
Yeah, I think there's no question about it. I mean, it starts really first, I think, Darrell, with planting some signs. In Edmonton, I think there's actually literally a little bit of a fear in your neighborhood in Edmonton, knowing that it's likely to be orange, to be the first one to put a sign out on your yard. We put out a blue sign last election, and response from one of my close friends was, "You're going to get beat up," in a joking way, being the first guy on the block to have a blue sign. And so I think a lot of that is to be ready when the election's ready to go. So we're hitting the ground running with signs out and door knocking and everything. So we've got a lot of momentum right out of the chute, and people then aren't afraid to step forward. And I think they'll have that courage. There's a silent group, I think, in Edmonton. It's business owners, and it's families, and it's churchgoers, and it's right across the spectrum. We've got a lot of blue collar people here. A lot of my friends, welders, are in construction, but they may not step forward. They may not get out and vote. They may feel their vote doesn't count sometimes too. So I think we really need to reach out to those groups and say, look, every vote counts. Let's get that vote out, and let's win some seats.
What's encouraging in Edmonton too, Rick, is we look at the organization, the energizing that's happening up there. I mean, even the number of conservative candidates that ran in your municipal election was incredibly encouraging. We have to remember Alberta is a conservative province. 58.6% of people in Alberta, they recognize themselves, they identify as being conservative. So they elect all of the conservative MPs that go to Ottawa. It's just a matter, I think, of even identifying a little more clearly who the conservatives are in Edmonton, and then getting them out to vote. And this is where strong CAs are essential to winning.
The other note there would be, if you're watching this, hit that share button, because the mainstream media certainly probably isn't helping get this message out. Folks in Edmonton, they're probably barraged, whether it be at work, on the television, whatever, by this sort of message that is not coming from the UCP, that is not coming from conservatives. So if people see, oh, there is people in my neighborhood, there are people who are conservative, like me, they might be more likely to throw one of those signs up. Rick, thank you so much. Really appreciate you joining us. Best of luck. And it's a battleground, so get ready.
It is absolutely okay. Thank you
so
very much.
Thanks, Rick.
Sovereignty is a critical topic, obviously, for this government moving forward. And it's so many issues surrounding sovereignty around emissions caps and oil and gas and productions. They affect the folks of Northern Alberta tremendously. They affect us all, obviously. Yeah. But so many people in the northern parts of this great province, ranging from First Nations to people who've come out from the east to try and get new jobs and opportunities. It's a critical battleground. Northern Alberta. Now, clearly, it's generally conservative, but these people deserve very strong representation. They deserve a voice at the table that isn't just concerned about gaining ground in the cities, but is very much focused on these critical industries. With that in mind, we're very happy to be joined by a grassroots candidate for the directorship of the northern region of this beautiful province, Vicki Kozmack-Lefrense.
It's amazing. Vicki is a street fighter. And she's from Fort McMurray. She's up in there. She's in the oil and gas industry. She's been on the board before. She's super experienced, and she knows her way around Northern Alberta, unlike most people do. And this is essential because, so much of our strength as a party comes from rural Alberta. And we need to keep that rural voice strong. We need to be demonstrative in our appreciation for all those in rural Alberta who have kept our party going in some very dark days. And, now that there's lighter days ahead, we can't forget the strength that comes from rural Alberta. And Vicki certainly represents that.
Vicki, thanks so much for joining us. Happy to have you. I guess just my first question for you, how important is it to have a strong directorship in your region advocating for the important industries that generate so much for all of this province, not just your region?
Well, hello, Darrell and Adam. Thank you for hosting this today. It's sometimes the folks in the north feel a little bit underrepresented. And I say that in the sense that we sometimes feel like we contribute almost disproportionately to the GDP of Alberta, just because we have the oil sands, a lot of oil and gas in the north. And it's important that we keep that strong voice at the table. I know that there are some concerns here almost immediately because there are boundary redraws, and we need to be careful because the North is about to lose a constituency. We're about to lose a seat in this province, and there's going to be 3 more in the urban setting in Edmonton and Calgary. And there's an opportunity for us yet to have our last say. And I'm working with some folks up here in the north, and I'm going to be, hopefully if I'm reelected, I'm going to continue to work with the CAs up here so that we can get our voices heard one last time. And hopefully that commission will pay attention, because you can't take our voters here and our residents in the north for granted. I mean, for the UCP, we're very lucky because we do have strong conservatives, but we can't take them for granted. We need to give them strong representation. We need to have strong CAs, and we do actually. We have very strong CAs in the north, but we need to not take folks for granted. We need to fight for them, and that's what I do at the board level. I am that voice at the table for our members in the north.
We have 5 very powerful regions in Alberta that are represented at the board. Vicki, of course, is in the north. There's Central, South, Edmonton, and Calgary. And what I like about what we've done with the UCP is these regions are equal, right? The north has no more say than the south, than the city, than Central or Edmonton. And you have to realize it's our regional directors are like the Senate, right? But truly representative of their areas. And when they speak, their voices really matter. And, there are functional parts of the board, which, president, kind of like the quarterback, or fundraising, which is coming up. But, the regional directors are the ones that really are in tune with the CAs, but they're also the ones that have to motivate the CAs. They have to encourage the CAs. They have to discipline the CAs. They have to, sometimes there's a lot of appreciation that goes with it, but sometimes you just got to say, hey, it's time to get moving. And I think, Vicki, you have one of those voices that is able to engage people in a respectful way, but also the kind of way that will allow us to win and to continue to win in the north.
Well, I thank you for saying that, Darrell. I think a lot of that comes from my experience. I, as well, was a CA president. I was the president for 3 years for Fort McMurray, Wood Buffalo. And I think that gives me that knowledge and that wisdom that I can impart into the other CAs and the presidents and those boards. And this is not, I believe, the time for inexperienced people to be at the helm of the ship. And we are going to need all hands on deck. And there are some big challenges coming up. I know in the north as well, we have some MLA recalls that we're going to have to organize around and fight. We have an oil and gas sector that's under attack from the federal government. And there's a lot of work that it needs to be done, that has to be done. But also, like you said, Darrell, to energize those CAs, I think having a calm, steady voice, an experienced voice, the skills that are required to get the job done, to get those fundraisers, because we do need money to do this as well, get the membership base up and have that communication flowing. I think we've got a really bright future ahead of us. We just need to keep up the pressure and really, after this AGM, after the election, just hit the ground running once again, continue to do what we're doing.
And I think Vicki you make a really good point here, is that, the Conservative Party is really a party of individual members. right? It's the population. It's people that have the conservative values of faith, family, free enterprise, fiscal accountability, freedoms, and of course, charity. And when we talk about those types of people, we're talking about an amazingly powerful group because they themselves have ideas and thoughts and a lot of connections. When we look at the opposition, you have to analyze the opposition and what it is that this is a single thought, one voice operation that basically rows how the unions row. Mm-hmm. And 26 members of the union sit on the NDP. So is that a political party? Like, is there undue influence there? Do they have funds that actually come from public sector and from other people that they funnel into this fight? Yes, they do. We all know that. I mean, we can pretend we don't know that, or we can pretend to look the other way, but that's the way that they organize. They organize in these mass groups. They got large lists that they share. And yet, here's the UCP, a party of individuals rowing together. The coalition of conservatives is quite vast and complicated. But at the end of the day, I believe that there's so much value in the individual. And that individual is really representative in the UCP.
Collection of individuals rather than a monolith is the term I often use.
Yeah, exactly. I totally agree with that.
Vicki, thank you so much for your time. We really do appreciate you joining us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, you mentioned just earlier there are 5 regions, and for the last but certainly not least region just to our south here, the South Directorship, obviously, also going to be decided. We actually have a video here, I believe, ready to go from Jodie Gateman, so not able to join us live, but she did send a video along, and I think we'll throw to that in just a moment here.
Yeah, the thing with Jodie Gateman is Jodie's a fighter, and she represents area in Vulcan County, Mawsley area. She's out there fighting for her constituents, her neighbors, literally her neighbors, so that there is a prosperous rural lifestyle that's available to everybody. Now, it's actually Dr. Jodie Gateman, which we had a lot of fun at the Cowtown Showdown with that. And she's a PhD in education. Yeah. But, she tried to be a candidate for the UCP before, and she was denied. So she's an incredibly articulate, smart lady. And what I really took from her from the Cowtown Showdown is she made this comment about speaking to people in the language that they understood. And what I took away from that is that really conservatism is the language of love. And so we need to consider that. So maybe we can see Jodie's video here.
Welcome, everyone. My apologies for the video. Right now, I'm in a Waste Committee budget meeting, so you're going to have to make do with the virtual me. But before I tell you about myself, I want to share a story. Sitting at the kitchen table during a political meeting, a gentleman felt something moving under the table. When he looked under there, he saw a small child, 6 or 7, just quietly playing. At the end of the meeting, he glanced under there again and found the child contently sleeping. My name is Jodie Gateman, and my political journey started in an unusual place, under that kitchen table. I've heard that story many times from my mentor, and because of it, I can honestly say I've been involved with politics since I was knee-high. At 24, I ran my first campaign and later helped with others, both federally and provincially. By profession, I began as a teacher, learning how to explain ideas multiple ways until they made sense to everyone is something I've mastered, and as a farmer's wife, it sometimes comes in handy. Combine that with my political experience and the ability to run my own companies, it shaped me to take on complex responsibilities with confidence. This aligns quite nicely with the responsibilities of a regional director. Now, politics to me works best like a family, when we're united around shared goals with leadership that's collaborative rather than top-down. I've been honored as 40 under 40, a commissioner of oaths, I have my PhD, but none of that compares to real life experience. I know what it's like to work an 80-hour week, having branding, corporate meetings, council's budgetary items, and then home to make sure the house is clean, laundry's in, and the kids are ready for school. That is real life. And that real life perspective is why I'm asking for this position to work for you. I'm not seeking recognition nor brownie points. I'm quite happy with my career, but I'm here because I feel compelled to step up again. Step up for our future, our children's future, and our grandchildren's future to help ensure our board remains open, transparent, and committed to its members. People are tired of the political spin. They want honesty, they want clarity, and information they can trust. So let's work together to ensure we have an informed, capable, and empowered group of CAs and members. We are all conservatives. We're strong, we're resilient. Our principles have value, real value. I asked for your vote this weekend for Southern Director, and I remind you, conservative is not a bad word. Thank you so much. I look forward to seeing you all in Edmonton. Have a fabulous night.
She apologized for the video, but it was a really great video. And I mean, the fact is she's working, serving your community. So if she's too busy helping her community to hop on, that's the exact type of person I think people.
Well, it's a legitimate excuse.
Absolutely.
Right? I think we can go with that. And you can tell from her video that Jodie's has well-organized thoughts.
Absolutely.
And when you're someone that's busy, you know what they say is if you want something done, give it to a busy person.
Absolutely.
Because they'll rearrange their schedule and they'll find time to get it done. Now, everyone has limits, and that's why we have a party with so many engaged members. And I think it's essential to realize that the United Conservative Party is as powerful as its members are active. And so the more active members that we have, the more powerful we are as a political organization. And we have some of the very best members on the planet. But we need to recognize them, and we need to say, give them a little bit more appreciation at various times. And give them some frameworks for them to actually operate within. So I think one of the things that I learned as a CA president here in Calgary Lougheed is that every CA has its own secret sauce. Every CA has a path for it to go on, but it boils down to 3 or 4. I mean, there's a great path that happens in Red Deer South. Our Parkland Lac St. Anne has a path. There's a path up in Bonnyville, Grand Center, St. Paul. But there are formulas in how they work and how they engage. Where you see the most active CAs, you see MLAs. And I think that really is a reflection of how hard people can work. If you're an orphan CA right now, I mean, there is a plan, a program to engage. I mean, Calgary Lougheed, our orphan CA is Calgary Acadia. We've been working with them for 2 years, encouraging them, motivating them, supporting them. They in turn support us. So it becomes a real reciprocal situation. And I think that's a valuable training and sharing opportunity for everybody.
Absolutely. I loved her message there too. Conservative is not a bad word.
Yeah.
Now that's a message that needs to be shared more broadly. And we talked about it needs to be shared in Edmonton, but there's so much pressure to be like, oh, well, you should be kind of ashamed of that, or don't talk about that publicly. Don't post about that. That's a critical message. It's a critical message that needs to get out. And in order to get critical messages out, the party does need some funds. It's critical to be able to push back.
Yeah.
And someone that is seeking to be the VP of fundraising is Helen Holder, who's going to be joining us in just a few moments here. Talk about the importance of fundraising and the challenges of fundraising for politics.
Well, I think one of the opportunities for fundraising in politics is that you actually can get a tax deduction, tax credit for your taxes. But more importantly, there was a change this last year where now small business can make a contribution like an individual up to $5,000. It creates a lot more flexibility. And being a party of entrepreneurs, certainly it's a path I think that many people will find encouraging to get behind your party. And what I would encourage people to do is there's really 2 places to give. Local CAs need the money. So when you go on our website, unitedconservative.ca, you can give to a specific area. You can give to your team in your area. And often when you get things from the office, from the leader, that's something that's going into general funds for the big election. So you can take charge. You can help your local CA for local activation, which I think is ultimately super important.
Helen, thank you so much for joining us. Great to have you here. I guess first off, I mean, fundraising is not easy. Why are you deciding that you sort of want to tackle this difficult challenge? And why should folks trust you to take on this position of VP fundraising?
Well, hi, Adam. Thanks, Darrell and Adam, for the invitation to join you tonight. I appreciate it. Fundraising is something I'm passionate about. I've been doing it quite a bit on the various CAs that I have been a part of, and I just feel like we are at a critical moment for our province right now, and I really want to be there to help. I'm not a politician. I'm not here to get paid. I really just care about Alberta, and I think that I have a great skill set to be able to achieve the fundraising goals that we have, and hopefully exceed them. So I just think that I have the right skill set, and I have a plan. I've kind of built up a little detailed plan. You can find it on my website, and I would just really like to be able to help out with that and also be a voice for the grassroots. I think it's really important that we have a strong board at this critical time, and I would like to be a part of that. I think I've proven myself as a leader in the movement, and I'm happy to help.
You know what I find interesting, Helen, is you're so understated about your contribution to the party even in the last year. I mean, Helen is super engaged. I mean, she is the president of Calgary, president of Highwood, south of Calgary. She's on my board in Calgary Lougheed, and we move fast there. So she's there to keep up. And she's also the chair of the subcommittee for governance, for reviewing all of the governance policies that came in. This is a ton of work.
Yeah.
And so, Helen is a workhorse. She's there. She gets the job done. She has an incredible family that she's active with all the time. Her CA, they're doing fundraisers. They're doing community engagement consistently. They even venture down into topics that, are a little bit, I don't think they're controversial. I mean, she talked about the pension plan. I mean, I think everyone in Alberta deserves a great pension. I mean, Helen's CA did that. So when you have a task that you want to get done, and you have a person that's as organized as Helen, she's incredibly approachable. She's been an engineer for 17 years. So, she's very good with the details, and she's very good at the execution.
And to your credit, it's very easy to give a speech, to get in passion, to do that stuff. For folks who haven't been involved with politics behind the scene, who haven't been on a constituency association meeting, who haven't been involved in fundraising, that is the real marathon work. That is where the real politics is done to a massive extent. So for folks who maybe don't see your face as much as some of the other folks, just thanks for all those efforts, because it's tireless work.
Oh yeah, and all across Alberta, the CFOs and the fundraising heads in all of these CAs, it's a thankless job, because without the finances to come into a CA, it's very difficult to have engagement and to build signs. I mean, have you looked at the cost of signs these days? I mean, it's unbelievable. Yeah. So there's a new limit that will be for each CA leading into the election. It's $60,000. That's the maximum spend limit. And then, of course, there's a limit on what the actual big campaign can have too. But you need to be well funded so that you can have all the right pieces in the right places at the right times. And we appreciate everybody across the province who gives money. People like Helen quarterback that opportunity. But at the same time, it's really the members who give that are essential.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Helen. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Up next is we're getting our next guest to join us, Scott Payne. Talk about the role of secretary. What does a secretary do?
Well, what I think the secretary does, from what I can hear from Scott, is that the secretary runs in the wake of the president and keeps everything organized behind him. I mean, that will be the job of the secretary coming up. Scott Payne is really an amazing individual. Longtime family involved with politics. Scott wrote the Alberta Bill of Rights last year, was one of the key black hats behind that, the detail and the hours that are committed to doing that. Anytime you have a task that needs that sort of principled, timely, detailed oratory piece, Scott's been there for us. And I think as a secretary, Scott is the guy. I mean, I loved the comment that he made at the Cowtown Showdown. He said his superpowers were word processing and Excel spreadsheets. Wasn't that right, Scott?
Yeah, typing.
Welcome.
Thanks for joining us, Scott. So state your claim. You got the cowboy hat on. What's your bid for secretaryship? I mean, it's a challenging position, like you said, effectively wrangling cats, trying to keep everything in order. Why do you want this job?
Well, I think it's important to have a freedom-based member on the board. It would be great to have everybody on the board focused on that. I'm doing this for my kids and my wife and all my family and friends, fellow Albertans, and of course myself. I see that Alberta is, in great danger, as is the rest of Canada. The federal government, which is really not the cause of the problem, it's the symptom of the problem. We have a constitution that does not protect the regions. And we've had legislatures over our 120 years within the province and in Ottawa that have not respected even the good parts of the Constitution. And now we have a federal government that the Prime Minister currently really was the de facto Prime Minister for the last 5 years. We brought in too many immigrants, too many violent immigrants. We're doing exactly what's happened to Europe, the United Kingdom, France, basically everywhere but Poland and Hungary. We are bankrupting ourselves. We just had the Federal Conservative Party of Canada had a couple of its members take a knee during the vote on the budget. Now we are stuck with this horrible budget. We have a government that doesn't even respect the timelines for a budget. I mean, it should have been done in the spring, right? And they just sat on it. And they're attacking us in all areas. The Bill C2, allowing Canada Post to open our mail without a warrant. Bill C8, allowing the minister to kick you off the internet. So that's your banking, that's your Facebook, your X, your Amazon, whatever, again, without a warrant. And then Bill C9, increasing penalties for hate speech, which they will determine what hate speech is. So we won't be able to talk about the problems. Plus they want to take all of our guns, like on and on and on. You'll probably see a flyer or two at the AGM that will list those problems. But we really need to be nimble. We really need to have a proper referendum, a clear question, not mixed with other clear questions. And we need people on the board that will advocate for that. And I want to be one of them.
Incredible. Scott, thank you so much for your time. We really do appreciate it.
Scott, he's got a lot of experience in being disciplined. I mean, he's in the reserves.
He
understands. He used to be in the reserves, and he understands what it takes to get the job done. And when you are wrangling cats, as you put it, it takes a lot of passion to do that. And again, remember, all these people that are volunteering, they're volunteering for a non-paid 40-hour-a-week job,
campaigning for, nonetheless.
And they're out there saying, hey, vote for me. I'm willing to give you 20, 30, 40 hours a week of volunteer time to make the political process work in Alberta. That's a tremendous commitment by everybody. And thank you so much, Scott.
You're welcome. Thank you so much. Well, we talked earlier about how funds are needed to get the message out, but we're very much in an information war right now. So you need a strong VP of communications in order to get that message out. And our next grassroots candidate hoping to be the VP of communications is Samantha Steinke. As we're getting her on, just how important is it to have someone who has a pulse on sort of on what's going on, a finger on the pulse of what's going on, but also can effectively communicate the sort of policies and messages of the UCP?
Well, it's essential because we are in an information war. I mean, yes, we're in a cultural war. Yes, we're in a spiritual war. But, importantly enough, we need to articulate our position well. Samantha, she is seeking re-election. This is actually her third time to seek re-election. She had a 1-year term and then now a 2-year term. I mean, there isn't a place you can go in Alberta that Samantha doesn't know somebody in the room. And communication starts with knowing the members too, right? And she's been deeply involved with the development of the youth program. I mean, Calgary Lougheed and Acadia for a couple of years drove the bus on the youth debates. And then Samantha Steinke and her colleague down here, Brad Lafarge, who's the Calgary director, they really put their shoulder into pushing the youth debates and youth programs. And I mean, they crisscrossed this entire province for, it seemed like 2 months, encouraging youth to be engaged, going to youth activities, and getting to the point where we can have our own youth council. So her work is essential. She's a mom. She just knows what's going on. And if you need to know somebody or to get someone to phone you from somewhere, you just phone Sam.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. I guess I'll just ask you directly, how does the UCP win the information where obviously the media is out there, the opposition is out there, there's lots of voices in contention. How is that a battle that can be won?
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you for having me on tonight. Adam, it's been a little while. I think the last time we connected was walking down the path in front of the river in Calgary, making a video with Todd Lowen. So it's good to see you again. I'm sure we'll catch up at AGM. Yeah. But you know, the way we start winning these wars is by people like you, by people like us, getting out there, doing these sorts of events. You know, people who share our message, who share our values, going on podcasts like Jason Levine and Sean Newman, and you know, getting away from those mainstream media sources, because as you stated earlier, they're never giving us a fair shake. The CBC Global, they don't share our message, they don't share those things, and so that is where we become a very important piece of sharing a conservative message. And as Darrell mentioned, I think relationships play a huge role in that. Just knowing people across the province, having those connections where you can reach out to people and say, hey, you know, this is what people are saying, but if you could go out and you could actually tell the real story, that would be a great help for us. Something that I have done. I have those relationships with people. I don't have to go and, you know, start all over again. I have those connections. I'm able to pick up the phone and call people. And so I really think that that's going to be critical in the next couple of years, getting our message out there, because Lord knows we do not want to see an NDP government in this province ever again. And we on the board, as Darrell has mentioned, are volunteers, but I know that every single person on this board is committed to ensuring that our message is a winning message. And I truly believe that if we just stay true to our conservative values, that people are going to reelect us again, because that's what they're thirsting for. They're thirsting for conservatism, and they're thirsting for us to just be unapologetic about it and just go with that message.
You know, it's Samantha, it's great to hear you say that. I mean, it's particularly about the conservative values being something that we should be proud of to live day in and day out. I mean, I certainly know you live those. I mean, you're up in Valley View. You were just down here not a week ago, spreading the word of conservative values and communicating to people and articulating that position. You know, when you see this engagement that's going to happen with communication, I mean, is it just a social media war, or is it the sort of thing that we can win by working with CA so that they can then take the message to their members at the grassroots?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this is far bigger. Communication is far bigger than just social media. I've been having this conversation over the last little while about what our communication committee needs to look like, what it needs to do. And honestly, social media is one part of it, but there are so many other parts of what we need to do. Marketing is different from social media, is different from in-person events, is different from relationship building, but all forms of communication. So my vision for the communication committee coming up is to have a person responsible for each area to go out and create a subcommittee so that we can really focus individually on those things and make sure that our message is just, you know, kind of really tight in every area that it needs to be tight in. And I think that with that message and with that strategy, I think that we're going to dominate in 2027, not only in rural Alberta, where we see huge numbers already, but more seats in Calgary. We're going to win back those seats in Edmonton. And I'm confident that if we just stick to our conservative message, like you said, those things that really bring us together: faith, family, freedom, fiscal responsibility, charity, free enterprise, responsible government, small government, and low spending and low budgets. I think that we will see big wins, and I'm looking forward to it. And I know that I'm the person that has the ability to bring us to that level of win.
You know, I'm hopeful, Samantha, that what you're speaking, you can also articulate, because I've not only seen it in person, but I've watched you do it in front of a crowd, and it's really remarkable your ability to inspire people to share their conservative ways each and every day. And I think, as conservatives, it's not bad. It's a good thing. I mean, what I know of conservatives is they're some of the most generous people ever. They're the ones giving to charity. They're the one putting in the volunteer hours. And I think a lot of folks, they need to take pride in being a conservative. And I really know that you're the sort of person that can ensure that pride is instilled and that people will stand up and say it out loud.
Darrell, it's more than, sorry, I don't want to cut you off, but
no,
it doesn't only happen with me, right? And that's kind of the one thing that I've been saying and letting people know that I'm only just one piece of this puzzle. People like you who, you host town halls, you have the hard discussions, you're not afraid to talk about things. And that's kind of what I carry through to the board. I might not always win every vote, and maybe people will be angry at me for not winning every vote, but I don't get discouraged. I keep going back. I bring my points. I say my piece. And I think even when you don't win a vote, but you're able to have that discussion, it influences things and it really matters. There's value in different opinions. And it's never really been about me. So I would just like to remind people that, this coming weekend on November 29th, when you go and you cast your ballot, everybody gets one. I would just ask that you consider who's going to be at that table representing you and not representing themselves. I've proven that this is not about me and it's never been about me. And I'm not looking for glory or fame or to become an MLA or anything like that. I'm truly here doing this because I have a servant heart and I want to represent the members of our party. And so I thank both of you for your time. I thank you for doing things like this. Anything that gives our members more transparency, I'm all for it. And so again, thank you so much for your time this evening. And I look forward to seeing you this weekend at the AGM.
Thanks, Samantha. That's fantastic. And just on that note, what's really interesting is that we have so many people that are live streaming this. We have like over 6,000 conservatives across the province that are watching this message today. And, we're trying to give people a message of hope. Alberta is an abundant place. It's the sort of place where we can create prosperity when it goes, it's freed up from the oversight and the overgovernment of the federal government, and even in our own government gets out of the way so that people can be prosperous. It's a super important and encouraging idea.
So we had the opportunity to ask some questions of some of the folks, of the grassroots candidates, hoping to work for folks, UCP supporters, the membership. We talked a little bit before, but now I want to ask you some questions.
Okay.
Now, we've had quite a few comments online, questions coming in. Some of them have been kind of amalgamated, but there's quite a few critical topics.
Sure.
And we'll touch on them. So let's go through that. First, obviously, this event is called an Alberta First virtual town hall. That notion of Alberta First, it can be a buzzword, but it really is quite important. What does Alberta First mean to you?
Well, I think for me, to be Alberta First, you have to really live Alberta First. You have to be making decisions, in our case, as conservatives, through the eyes of conservative policy, and that policy is reflected in our government. Because, when we go and work to get MLAs elected that are conservative, I think there's a reasonable expectation by the membership that they will be conservative, and that once they get up in Edmonton and there's dome disease gets in and they creep up and they say, well, we should shift way left or we should shift farther left. And, being red or orange is a little bit better. I can be a red conservative. I can be an orange conservative. This isn't really true. I mean, if you can live day in and day out with conservative values, you need to demonstrate the value of that to people all the time. And so when I say Alberta First, I mean actually deciding based on putting Alberta first. I had a group in Edmonton ask me, what policies will I push forward through the UCP to put Edmonton first? And my answer to that question is really, I won't. I mean, these policies have to be for the good of Alberta. It's not that we have to we have to, focus in to say there's issues that need to be addressed in the various regions of our province. But when we have a framework, and that's really what the provincial board is, I'm going to lead a framework of skilled and tireless volunteers to give that framework for our party to be successful, to also influence government. I mean, one of the themes that I've said that's important to be Alberta First is that I need to be the voice to government, because at times there's a lot of these groups in the Conservative coalition, they don't feel heard. You know, and it's easy to discount them as not being important or to kick the can or something's going to happen at a later date. We don't have time. You know, the time is now. So when we have real issues that are Alberta centric, and I think we need to be taking them seriously and dealing with them right now.
How do you unify that coalition?
Well, I think the first thing about unity is listening and acting. I mean, we have to take actions to give people hope. We can't just be sitting back on our hands hoping that someone's going to do it for us. And I mean, if anything that we've learned from the leader of the party, Danielle Smith, is she gets out there, she puts herself in front of people, she listens to the people, she gets their feedback. Now, does she do what I want all the time? No. Is she a lady that's super smart and knows where she wants to go with her direction? Yes. Does she have forces that get pushed on her that, you know, we don't know about? 100%. And I can totally respect that. But when I talk to members do believe that they should be heard, and members do expect that. I'll take, for example, last year at the AGM. I mean, here we had a great effort by so many of our membership for the Alberta Bill of Rights. Did we feel let down? Absolutely. You know, we felt let down because it was not articulated to us what the plan of the government was in order to add rights. In fact, when after the fact, many of us felt that those rights were taken, there was fewer rights for us, and so they were being taken away. So was it a win for freedoms in Alberta? No. And I've said this about freedoms. Freedoms are like hockey cards. No, you got to collect them, because you never know in 10 years which of those hockey cards is going to be the most valuable. And when you have a Alberta First mentality, you are collecting freedoms. You are collecting the most number of freedoms, property right freedoms, freedoms to, you know, own your property, defend yourself. I mean, these are essential. And to just tell people it's not important in rural Alberta, that's just lying to people. It is important. It is important when the police don't come. Okay, how do I defend myself and my family when the police don't come? I'm getting worked up. But this is the sort of thing where people are not heard. They're not being listened to, and the action is not coming fast enough because the crimes continue to roll in and impact Albertans and our members. And so our party needs to be bold, and it needs to be conservative.
I guess we've got quite a few questions coming in from folks out there.
I can see them flowing now.
We're cleverly cutting away as they come to me, but there are lots of questions coming in, so we want to do that. The question I want to ask you before I read a few of these, though, it's sort of the elephant in the room here right now. Obviously, you want to be very member-centric. One of the big conversations is this question of Alberta independence.
Right.
So as hopefully president of the party, where's your position on Alberta independence?
Well, I have advocated and have demonstrated that you can have a constructive conversation with adults in the room about the possibilities of independence or no independence. Calgary Lahi did create an event, a whole event that you can read or watch, the couragetolisten.ca. You can go there. We had 8 speakers. They talked about the whole cross section of what independence would look like, what sovereignty would look like, what an independent Alberta without Canada would look like, what it would look like with Canada. This is an intelligent adult conversation. And we can't shy away from having this conversation just because, you know, Jason Markov and CBC might misquote me, because I know he's listening. So I just thought I'd put that out there on what I mean. And what I mean is, let's have the conversation. Let's engage it. There's obviously 2 points of view. Thomas Laskazik, like I said earlier, collected, 450,000 signatures that never had to be validated, but fair enough. 450,000 people signed that petition. So I know the Alberta Prosperity Project is geared up for their question. So how can you not have the conversation on this essential topic? So I'm for the conversation. My personal opinion as the president is not really that important. What is important is that I facilitate the conversation to occur.
You know, we've got this question here. We talked about the MOU, pipelines, Carney, all that stuff off the top. From Unscrew the News. They say, do you think that the MOU with Carney has been planned just before the AGM? And do you think our members will be fooled by this empty promise?
100% no.
No. Plain and simple. There you have it. 100% no. What do you make of that MOU in general, though? You started to talk about it a little bit earlier. Empty gesturing, is that the extent of it?
Well, my personal opinion on this is, I think the Premier has, in every good conscience, tried to do her very best to engage the federal government in a constructive conversation. There is no real reason for the federal government to have a constructive conversation for us. I mean, they weren't elected by the time the election gets to Alberta, it's not relevant. And if you look at the color of Alberta being blue, it's not relevant again. So I don't see the need. The only real tool we have to negotiate is if we have a hand of cards, and that's a full house of all of one suit, then we might have a chance for negotiation. Until then, it's going to be a lot of hollow gestures from the federal government, the Liberal government. It's another 120 years of the same thing.
Another question here from @Paul C. Bergman. How do you explain ridings with active UCP boards that were beat by the NDP? Urban ridings are becoming more left-leaning. It's become dangerous to post unpopular views. Why are things trending in this direction in general, I guess?
Well, here's my honest answer to your question. I mean, the thing about voting is that people vote for the MLAs that are running or the candidates that are running the election. And sometimes we have a true democratic process where people are unelected because people feel that they made enough mistakes while in office that they no longer deserve to be the MLA. That's just the practical reality of it. Sometimes those changes are close knit races, and sometimes it's really, really big. So as far as urban ridings leaning towards the left, I think that people lean towards the left because they feel that they enjoy the entitlements that come with that particular social interaction. It's like a universal basic income. Imagine giving $2,000 to 17-year-olds and then saying, "Hey, you need to get a job," and they're going like, "Nah, $2,000 is great," and they're happy with that, but they don't know the potential, and their own potential is being curbed by that. So back to the issue of urban ridings leading left. I believe that urban ridings lead left because we need to be, as conservatives, active in those communities. We need to return to those boards. We need to get back on school boards. We need to get back into city councils. We need to be engaged to show that the only option isn't socialism, that the option out there, that there is enough conservatives that still feel that family, faith, free enterprise, fiscal accountability, and freedoms and charity are important. And if they're not important, then they will be lost.
We've got a comment from the feed too. Nice button. Are folks going to be able to get those at the AGM if they want them?
Well, this particular button, so I mean, we're so grassroots. Somebody literally made me this button. I don't know if you can see it there. Someone made me this button. It's a reused button from a previous campaign. And they said, "Darrell, I want to make you a button." And I was grateful for it, and that's the kind of a little bit of fun that we're having, and that's kind of what happened with all of our songs. And when you go to my website Komick.org, it started as let's have a theme song, kind of, and suddenly now we have enough songs on there for an entire album. So I'm so grateful to everybody who's doing their part on my campaign, and for all these campaigns everywhere, that we might articulate ourselves in a way that people feel that they know that they can be confident in the direction that we're going to take conservatism in Alberta.
Our next comment from Veterans for Freedom, and I just want to take a moment on that note to thank the veterans out there. Obviously, the federal government has been absolutely negligent in honoring the sacrifices and services that so many have made for this country. So thank you so much for your service. If you are someone who is struggling out there, you're certainly not alone. The federal government may make you feel isolated, but there are countless people watching right now. We can't thank you enough for your service, and we could never pay the debt back. So thank you so much for what you've done. And on that note, we will share your comment, which is, I think, a pertinent one. Some constituency associations may not want to hear, but my constituency association has been fat and lazy. I only see them during election season.
Yes.
How do you fix that?
Well, the answer to his question is yes. And I think it's not so much that they're fat and lazy. It's just that the number of people that are engaged there is limited to the people that are sitting around the table. So I hate to say that this is what I just finished saying about getting involved in school boards.
Mm-hmm.
You need to be involved in the CAs. Now, keep in mind, about 4 years ago, there was an entire new movement that happened in Alberta with conservatives. There was nowhere else in the country that there has been such a growth of engagement of conservatives in between elections as there ever has been in Alberta. Now, that means that the government has to have a different way of managing itself, because the ruling party's own members didn't go away. We didn't go quietly. We're not just sitting on the sidelines waiting for the next election to knock on some doors. So this is a great opportunity. This is an opportunity to engage, in our case, almost 60,000 active members in Alberta, and get those members to the point where they realize that, more hands make light work. And to that veteran, thank you so much for your service and everything that you're doing for us. What veterans have done in blood, we now must do in time. So when people say that I can't give time, realize that people gave their lives for freedoms, and now you're just being asked for your time, which is a very simple thing to do. We're all busy, but I think that we need to prioritize and realize that your engagement in this party is essential. And having that engagement means we call on you to do tasks and to get jobs done. And there's a great unity that comes with working together. It's like sharing bread or sharing a meal together. It's a very unifying experience.
Veterans for Freedom, obviously an incredible organization doing incredible work out there. So check them out, give them a follow. Veterans for Freedom.
Thank you for your question.
Yeah, absolutely. You talked about election readiness there, so let's get into that sort of topic here. Maybe we'll machine gun through a few here. So the battle for Alberta, obviously, there's Edmonton, there's Calgary. How do you think the UCP regains grounds, and how will you push the UCP to regain ground in those critical battlegrounds in Calgary and Edmonton?
Well, just a little bit of reality check for everybody. Here in Calgary, we won 6 ridings, the election basically by 2,611 votes, very thin margins. We lost 6 ridings by just shy of 1,400 votes. And we lost a couple more that we should have won by comparable numbers. So, here we have the entire focus of the enemy will be in Calgary, and they have a hub and spoke technique. They basically fund all of their constituencies with the same amount of money, and then those constituencies spend different amounts of money elsewhere outside their constituency. So this is reality. This is how they're doing it. And once they get in an area, they really overwork that area with their visibility, their engagement. They show, the opposition shows up at events. They're active. They're giving things away free, and so they're well organized. Now, on our side, we are as organized, if not more. We just need to realize that we are a powerful force, and that force of good is going to carry us forward, but we need to get involved. And I encourage people that are upset, or they're sitting on the couch, or they're thinking, I don't have the time to do that. We will win back every seat we can win as a direct result of the volume of members that get involved in their CA. And I'm saying that about Edmonton. I'm saying that about Lethbridge West. I'm saying that about Sherwood Park. I'm saying that about Calgary Acadia, Glenmore. It doesn't really matter. Banff, Kananaskis. This is a direct correlation to how many members get involved, because the board of directors can create a great strategy, and they can work and get the resources in place for people, but it will be the members that win the election.
Absolutely. You touched on this a little bit, though, and I mean, Vicki commented on it as well with the redrawing of some of the borders and things. There's always that risk, though, that if you refocus too much on the cities, and you said you're not going to make a policy specifically to help Edmonton to win, but how do you strike that balance in gaining ground in the cities while not alienating rural voters who've supported you quite loyally?
Well, I think the first thing you got to realize is that the soul of our party is in rural Alberta. Yes, the soul of our party is in rural Alberta. They themselves were with us during good times and bad, and they continue to be with us. And while it's strong in rural Alberta, we can't take that for granted. But I don't for a second think that we can't win city seats. No, I heard Rick make the comment that he sees a 6 or 7 in Edmonton. Great. I'd like to have that discussion with people to say which 6 or 7, and how do you go about having a strategy to do that. And I was on the election evaluation team from the last election, and it created 13 recommendations going forward. And this talks about a differentiated strategy by region, by city, by parts of the city, by neighborhoods. Okay, so this is a very in-depth process, but it's also a very in-depth engagement of people. And the more people that we have involved, the more people that we give a task to, the more of those tasks that get done, the more city seats we will win.
The big challenge with having lots of people involved, though, and unlike the left where it's this monolith and they're all willing to just blindly rally and agree to a few terms and conditions, conservatives are very stubborn, and that's a good thing, but it also makes it very hard to lead the party. So how do you unify conservatives behind the leadership of Danielle Smith? Is that your job? And if so, how do you do that?
Well, I've always said that we have a coalition of conservatives. You know, we have a party that has a coalition of conservatives. Leadership of our party needs to find a balance of listening to all of those various coalitions. And you know, there is certainly a 10% group that they love the status quo. They don't want to make any changes. They don't want to ripple anything. I respect that because, you know, they're invested heavily in Alberta. There's a group there that says, you know, we're in urban, we're being buried by socialist messaging. I understand that. I see that. There's rural Alberta that says, look, you know, my family is everything to me, and protecting that family means everything to me. And there's certain things that people want to be validated for that means protection, and we need to do that. So whatever that those coalitions are, I mean, I would say there's somewhere in the name of 40 of them. We need to be respectful to all of them. But all of them also need to be respectful to each other. We just can't have one saying, well, I said, therefore you will do. We need to know that this is a little bit of give and take on everybody's part. But at the same time, this is such a prosperous province that we should be able to deliver the conservative policies and values to all of Albertans, but through the eyes of the Conservative Party. And by doing that, people will see how rich it is and how much we understand and are involved and engage with people. Some folks, they will never be involved. Okay, I call those the red lights. You can't spend a lot of time on red light folks because they just drain your energy. They just suck the very essence out of your soul. Then you get amber lights. Those are people who just want more information. They want to be educated. They have an issue, you know, or a group of issues that they go together, and we can address that. And then there's the green light people. You still need to acknowledge and give green light people the things that they ask for, because that is the very foundation principle of our party. So that's the way I kind of see it. It might be oversimplified and symptomatic, but I just know in dealing with freedom, dealing with the issues of lockdowns, that we have run into this particular mindset in Alberta. It's highly been reinforced federally through, you know, copious amounts of media reinforcement. So the breakthrough is the individual. The breakthrough is our ability to think. And I think if we can get enough adults in the room, as they have a Chippy X line, that we will actually be able to have intellectual, practical community conversations that create a prosperous Alberta.
For folks out there who are still on the fence, I want to ask two important questions of you as we wrap up here. The first question is, what can members expect from you if elected president?
Well, I certainly think that members can expect actionable items for them to be engaged with. They know that there is an expectation for being involved. I think members need to realize that winning means they're engaged in their CA. I heard the Veterans for Freedom gentleman say that his CA isn't active. Well, I'll tell you what, go shake up the house, get involved, get active. There's many CAs that don't have MLAs that are super engaged. I look in Calgary Elbow, and the leadership of their team there that's doing great things. Yet you have Calgary Southeast where they have an MLA. They've had to reformulate their entire strategy. I look at the work that they're doing in Airdrie East. I look at the work out in Strathmore. I look up in Red Deer. I look up in Edmonton, Leduc, Beaumont. I mean, there's a lot of people that are super involved. People just have to know that we are available for you to get engaged. We will come to you. You will come to us. And we will then demonstrate in your neighborhoods, because that's what CAs are. They're neighborhoods. That being conservative is a marvelous and enchanting way of life.
And finally, what is your vision for the United Conservative Party if elected?
Well, I think for me, that vision is very clearly Alberta first. I believe that Alberta is a super prosperous place. I'm not exactly sure. Well, I do know this, is that when someone asks me, do you feel that Alberta is treated fairly by Ottawa? My answer to that immediately is no. And so I think for us as Albertans, whether you're blue or orange or red, you should be saying that isn't good enough for Alberta. And I only use the color analogy here because I think that if you're in Alberta and you get here, you know, and I have people who come into my store all the time, they're newcomers, you know, basically a lot of the food that we have is authentic food from a international destination. And what they share with me is they say this: when you get to Alberta, it's different. And I say, well, how is it different? They go, well, it's the culture. And I say, well, you know, and we're talking about people from El Salvador and Mexico and South America, or they're coming from Saudi Arabia, wherever they're from, and they're bringing their food culture to Alberta. They say, well, look, I can be an entrepreneur. I can be a small business owner. I can be a parent. I can own a house. I can feel safe. And these are essential things, I think, for the vision of Alberta, that people want to have wonderful families that are prosperous. They want to be able to know that whatever their faith is, that they can practice it freely, that they know that the freedoms that we have here in Alberta are unlike anywhere else on the planet, and that people should want to come here just because of the freedoms in and of themselves. We are a very rich place of minerals. We probably have one of the most wealthy resources, not just in the ground, but our people. Our people are special here. And I think that we're willing to give where we need to give in order to help where we need to help. But the deal with Canada right now is a broken deal. And like any abused relationship, you have to know that, and you have to recognize that, and then you have to say no.
Well, I do want to thank the Calgary Lougheed Constituency Association for making this possible. You for inviting me here to sort of serve as host. It was an honor. All the grassroots candidates who joined us as well took time out of their evening. I want to thank them very much for taking time to sort of have their sort of voice heard, to make their argument as to why they think they're the best person for these, again, volunteer jobs. They're basically fighting to sacrifice for you. So thank you so much to all of them. For everyone at home, for everyone who has shared this, for everyone who's participated and commented in this Alberta First Town Hall, we really appreciate it. And on that note, I think I'll give you the opportunity before folks are voting at the AGM to have the final word.
Well, I really would like people to vote for Darrell Komick as president. The reason I'm asking you to do that is I think in order to have your views heard, I'm willing to not just listen, but to take action on conservative views. And more importantly, you know, we need to have an organization that's united and willing to unify and have a lot of different opinions be recognized. And I'm that kind of person that will fight for our party and will fight for your voice in government. And that's all I can do, but it's everything that I can give. So thank you, Adam, for being the host. Thank you to our technical crew. Behind the scenes, what you can't see here is 8 people making this entirely possible for us. And for everyone who's tuned in, I think the tally is there's over 6,000 people that are watching us live right now. Thank you so much. I hope that you'll vote for me at the UCP convention on November the 29th. And I would like you to visit my website, komick.org, and enjoy all of the songs. I think we're having we have 2 more songs to release, maybe 3 before the AGM. So have a little bit of fun, and we'll see you up in Edmonton.
Thanks so much.
Welcome to Calgary Lloyd's Cowtown Showdown, where the West rides tall and Alberta stands first. Hear the Bow River whisper beneath the steel, where mountains bow to the plains appeal. Calgary rises steady and unrehearsed, a city that breathes Alberta first. And now the band takes the stand, boots tap time across the land. Voices lift in dust and sound, it's Cowtown Showdown. Gather round. Oh, province born of fire and frost, Let the trumpet call through the mountain air. Let the echo ride proud and fair. The spirit strong, the wind rehearsed. Sing together, Alberta first.
My dad can't lose weight with Tai Chi, so it's a scam?
Oh, no, he probably just.
Oh, I just want to say thank you very much for being here on Unscrew the News and 7-Eleven Daily Summary. Bruce Joel here, and that was a great opportunity to hear from some of the candidates on the upcoming AGM for the UCP party. That'll be this weekend, 28, 29, and 30th of November in Edmonton, Alberta. Hopefully you will be there. I will definitely be there with my bells on, and I'll be looking forward to meeting people in person. It'll be a lot of fun. So please look for me. You'll definitely recognize me with my UTN hat, more than likely, and probably this UTN Unscrew Alberta T-shirt. I look forward to seeing you and having some fantastic discussions. I look forward to talking about Alberta independence and our ability to make this province better and better each and every day. Thank you so much for joining me each and every night. I know I've been away for the last couple of nights, and I appreciate you coming back. And things are moving so quickly in the world. I'm not going to get into it right now, but I really do appreciate you being a part of this. You obviously can watch me and follow along on X, as well as please share and support. So like and subscribe. I'm on YouTube now. I could use some more subscribers, as well as share it out. Oh, I'm on Substack, and so you can certainly follow me there as well. And I appreciate any of the support. Again, I look forward to seeing you if you're in Edmonton. I will hopefully be able to do some live events right from there. And it should be a really, really interesting opportunity to network and meet some more people. And again, if you're there, make sure to look out for me and say hello. I would love to meet any of you in person in Edmonton when we are there for the AGM. Thank you very much for being here. Let's keep your head on a swivel. Let's stay sane together, you guys. God bless you all. Thank you so much for being here. And this is Bruce. And I'm out of here.
Thank you so much for watching Unscrew the News. I appreciate your participation in freedom in Canada. Share this information and help others to wake up. God bless.